Imagine waking up in a big modern city and there is no water in a tap. No water to brush your teeth, no water to make your favorite chai, latte, or coffee, no water to bathe or to even flush the toilet. It is such a chaos, I know. In 2019, the city of Chennai officially hit what leaders call the day zero. It means the reservoirs had almost run dry, and the millions of people are suddenly depending on the water tankers and long queues just to survive each day. I know, right? It's so chaotic. Today, reporters warned that 21 major cities in India, including Delhi, Bengaluru, and Chennai, face a severe groundwater depletion risk if current trend continues. Globally, freshwater reserves are shrinking fast, while climate changes intensify, draws, heat waves, and unpredictable rains. At the same time, if you look at the places like Saudi Arabia, Dubai, Abu Dhabi, where you see almost miracles, unbelievable things. Some of the most driest parts have built glittering cities, green parks, and modern farms, largely by engineering their waters. So the big question for this episode is like, are we heading towards the future of water wars, or can we move towards water wisdom, where we secure clean water for everyone and tackle climate changes at the same time? This is where Sustainable Development Goal 6, the Clean Water and Sanitation for All, and the Sustainable Development Goal 13, the Climate Action meet. In today's episode, we will be exploring, of course, regarding the water crisis, and we will be looking on the problems why our water systems are in crisis in international ways, globally, of course, also in India. We will be looking forward the solutions from Chennai to Saudi Arabia, of course Dubai and Abu Dhabi, what they are doing in a desert and what others can learn from them. From awareness to action, how to judge if solution is just real or just a greenwashing, and what different actions can actually be done. So stay with me till the end because I'll also share a simple checklist you can use to evaluate any water project through the Sustainable Development Goals here. So before jumping to today's episode, we'll take a short intro, then we'll continue our session.
Sing it loud, let's unite on the sustainability side. Feel the love day and night. Let's turn the tides, make a change today. Together we define our sustainable way with every step we take. We rise and glow on the sustainability side.
Let's start with the very harsh reality. The global picture with the UN Water Recent of the SDG 6 clearly says the world is off track on the 8 targets, and billions of people are still lacking safely managed drinking water and sanitation. Less than half of the households' wastewater is safely treated, dumping pollution into the rivers, lakes, and aquifers. So, reminding rest of the people, well, the story, it's not happening. Many countries are moving backwards on water quality and ecosystem protection. Demand for water has grown faster than population because agriculture, industry, and energy all are extremely water intensive. Climate change is a threat, of course, the multiplier, more frequent and intense droughts, floods, glacier melt, and sea rise has destabilized the water systems. So, globally, we face a double squeeze, raising a demand and more unstable supply. India's water reality is like getting into a more crisis. Now, let's zoom into the India. India relies heavily on the groundwater, especially for agriculture. As you all know, that's the backbone of our country. Recent officials and analytics data shows total annual groundwater recharge is around 448.5 billion cubic meters with the extractable resource of roughly 407.8 bcm. So currently extraction is about 247 bcm, meaning around 60% of extractable groundwater is pumped every single year. Some states are far beyond safe limits, like Punjab extracts over 156% of the annual groundwater recharge, and Rajasthan is about 147. In Delhi, extraction exceeds 90% of the annual recharge, putting it in a critical category. Analysis warned that 21 major Indian cities, including Delhi, Bombay, Chennai, are heading towards severe groundwater stress and potential day zero scenarios if the trend keeps on continues. Agriculture is the main driver, I would say, like about 87% of the India's groundwater withdrawal is for irrigation, especially for water hungry crops like paddy, often supports by subsidies, electricity, and price incentives. So, climate change makes this totally worse. The southwest monsoons, which provides roughly 60% of the India's groundwater, recharge saw like 5.6% rainfall deficit in the 2023. Studies projected that under continued warning of the groundwater depletion rates in parts of India could more than triple by 2080 and farmers pump more to cope with the heat and erratic rainfall. We also have the contamination problem, as we all know that it's not only limited to India, it's international issue. One assessment found contamination is about one-fifth of the groundwater samples across 440 districts with health and economy losses estimated around 80 billion USD per year. This is a serious crisis we are talking about here. Central and northern regions like Punjab, Haryana, Delhi, and Rajasthan, of course, like Uttar Pradesh, are emerging as a severe over extracted hotspots. So, Chennai, we have discussed about it, and you all know the Cape Town in Africa have something similar. So, focusing on the 2019, the Chennai story. The city's four main reservoirs nearly dried up by the poor monsoon. Water tankers become lifeline and bringing waters from the distant areas, often at the expense of our rural communities with the groundwaters. Some villages near Chennai saw their own storage emptied to severe urban demand. Chennai has been facing this issue way longer than that, and similar with the story of Cape Town, which is in South Africa. In 2018, its main dam dropped to around 11% of the capacity, and the city has a week away from formal day zero. These cities shows that water crisis is no longer a distant rural story. It's a urban, it's 21st century risk deeply connected to the climate change planning and inequality. So the problem is real and urgent, but if the desert like Saudi Arabia, Abu Dhabi, Sahara can keep their cities running, what exactly are they doing? What can the country like India realistically learn from them? In this part, I want to move from anxiety to agency, from water wars to water wisdom by looking at what's happening in Gulf and what lessons it offers. So we'll continue with our Sustainable Development Goals 6 and 13. First, the SDG framework itself. Of course, the 6 of the Sustainable Development Goals calls upon improve water quality and wastewater treatment, increase water use efficiency across all the sectors, implemented integrated water resources management, and protect water related ecosystems. Extended Sustainable Development Goals discuss about many countries still show low water use efficiency, less than 20 USD of economic output per cubic meter of water used. This data we are talking about the Sustainable Development Goal 6. At the current pace, global progress towards sustainable water management might not be achieved until around 2049, and way beyond 2050 is the target. So climate action under Sustainable Development Goal 13 demands that adaptation and mitigations to be embedded into the water policies. So the desalination dams or irrigation systems must also make sense in terms of energy use and emissions. So now let's look at Saudi Arabia's one of the largest country in the world without any permanent rivers. Historically, Saudi Arabia leaned heavily on fossil groundwater and built larger deserts farming schemes which led to the strong depletion. In recent years, the country has shifted the strategy. By 2023, a desalined seawater supplied about 50% of the distributed water nationwide, up to 44% in 2022, and reflected its 31% increase in desalination output in just 1 year. Non-renewable groundwater used by agriculture dropped around 7% from about um, 10,000 cubic meters to 935 million cubic meters. Renewable groundwater abstract shares rose 21% of total groundwater use, while non-renewable abstracts fell from by like 6%. The state-owned Saline Water Conservation Corporation, of course, operates dozens of desalination plants producing around 5.9 million cube per meter in a day in 2020 in Saudi Arabia, making one of the world's top desalinated water plant. So per capita household water consumption has also fallen. By expanding treated water waste reuse, targeting reuse of like 25% of the treated waste by their mid 20s, Saudi Arabia has attracting private investments and using public private partnership in a water sector. But all this comes with a trade off. Traditional desalination is energy intensive, and historically it relied heavily on fossil fuels, raising question under SDG. Now let's say what UAE and Abu Dhabi is doing a little bit different. So water scarcity was there, but the climate ambitions now to the United Arab Emirates, especially the cities like Abu Dhabi and Dubai, has made a big one of those nice strategies when we are talking about the water scarce countries on earth. Yet it has built a major urban tourism hubs in the desert.
What is a pickle? To some, it's just a condiment. To us, it is time captured, ancient herbal wisdom of the land, distilled in 100% pure ingredients. From the blood-purifying depth of bitter gourd to the restorative strength of the pirindai stem, we bottle nature's boldest essence. This is not just pickle. This is tradition, purity. This is heritage, preserved, crafted by nature, perfected by time.
The UAE has adopted a water security strategy for 2036, which aims to reduce total demand for water resources by 21%, increase the water productivity index to the 110 USD per cubic meter, reduce its water scarcity index by 3 levels, and increase reuse of treated water to 95% and expand national strategic water storage capacity to provide at least 2 days of regular supply and 30 to 91 per liter per person per day in emergencies. The country is also integrating water planning with climate and energy. The UAE's net zero 2050 strategy is meant to reduce the carbon footprint of sectors including the water. The strategy highlights the efficient desalination and extensive seawater treatment and having the clean water. Abu Dhabi and Dubai have set their bars high on decarbonized desalination. Abu Dhabi's Al Tarawi Reserves Oasis, which is a RO plant, is set to become the world's largest RO desalination facility, with the plans of 90% of the Abu Dhabi's desalined water to come from the RO by 2030. Well, they're just 4 years shorter, it's not long. So Dubai Electricity and Water Authority has started goals to produce 100% of the desalinated water using clean energy and waste heat by 2030 again. At the same time, UAE policies push for using treated seawaters, wastewater in agriculture and landscape irrigation, with Abu Dhabi and Dubai applying strategies, the microbial standards for reclaimed water, sometimes exceeding the older WHO guidelines. Well, not everything has a promising results, but promoting agri-tech and control environmental agriculture to reduce water use in food production. In short, the UAE model combines high technology, strong state investment, desalination powered, increasingly by clean energy and heavy recycling of the wastewater, all framed under Sustainable Development Goals 6 and 13. What can other countries like India can potentially learn from this UAE and Saudi Arabia? Now the big question is like India or other water stressed countries just copy Saudi Arabia and UAE? Well, to be honest, the answer is yes and no. So, what can be learned and adopted? We'll look into it. Seriousness about water as a strategic sector. When we focus on the Saudi Arabia and the UAE, treated water security almost like energy security with clear long-term strategies and big investments. Diversifying water sources, both countries reduce pressure on groundwater by shifting to desalination plus treated wastewater reuse. Is a great strategy. Aggressive targets for reuse. The UAE aims to reduce up to 95% of the targeted wastewater in a powerful benchmark. Many Indian cities will discharge large volumes of untreated sewage. Integrating water with climate and energy planning, diesel plants provides powered increasingly by clean energy storage and emerging planning shows how the sustainable development goals 6 and 13 can be aligned. What cannot be copy pasted here? That is, what cannot we do? So we'll see how the high-tech desalination and massive infrastructure require sustained capital and energy. What works in a small, high-income Gulf state may be harder to scale in a diverse, low middle-income country with a huge rural population. That makes sense, right? Energy footprint, if we talk about like a traditional diesel, is extremely energy intensive. If powered by coal or oil, it can be worse. The emissions and everything with the conflicting with the goal of sustainable development goal 13. It is so contradictory. So India's challenge is not just supplying water to few mega cities, but to thousands of towns and hundreds of thousands of villages with large inequalities. So for India and similar countries, a hybrid approach makes definitely sense. Use strategic desalination and reuse in coastal and high stress urban areas, powered as much as possible by renewable energy. Simultaneously, invest in groundwater recharge, take and wetland restoration, nature-based solutions, and efficient integration across rural and peri-urban, of course, landscapes. Set clear reuse targets for treated wastewater similar to Gulf benchmarks, especially for industrial and agriculture use. Well, in other words, learn the efficiency, planning, and reuse mindset from Saudi and UAE, but implementation it in a very decentralized, equity-focused way suitable for a country like India. So we have seen that deserts like Saudi Arabia and UAE are not just surviving but actively engineer their water future with big benefits and big trade-offs. The final part of the episode is now we are going to discuss what the citizens can be done, the professionals and the policymakers, how can we decide and what good looks in water solutions. So for you, I'm going to give a simple water wisdom checklist. You can start with when you hear about water project, a big dam or a diesel plant, a river linking scheme, a lake beautification or a crop subsidy, use this simple water wisdom checklist inspired by Sustainable Development Goals 6 and 13. Ask yourself, ask the project managers, ask, does it really reduce the water stress? Does it cut demand or increase efficiency or just find a new source to overexploit? Does it protect or restore ecosystem? Are rivers, aquifers, wetlands and coastal zones better off or worse off after the project? Is climate smart? Will it still work under droughts, floods and heat waves? What is energy and emission footprint? And is it equitable? Who gains and who loses? Are marginalized communities bearing the burden of pollution, displacement, or price hikes? Is transparent and participatory is happening? Are communities engaged in planning, monitoring, and benefit sharing, or is it just a top-down project? If a solution ticks most of these boxes, it's a step towards the water wisdom. If not, it might be a short-term fix for, you could say, the better word, it is called greenwashing. So people beware of it. So let's come back to our core question. Are we heading towards water wars? Or can we build a world of water wisdom? We have seen in our today's episode like various things, and globally we are off track on Sustainable Development Goal 6, which is the climate change, and under Sustainable Development Goal 13 is making water risk sharper and more unpredictable. India stands at a tipping point, and of course the groundwater already used, and it's creating a lot of stress and beyond going in a safe, it's going beyond the safe limits. Desert nations like Saudi Arabia, Dubai, and Abu Dhabi have shown that you can engineer water securities with this desalination, reuse, and strict strategies, but a high energy and investment cost. The real opportunity in the combination technology, policy, and nature-based solutions and behavior change, in a way, is a fair and climate smart. The future is not fixed. Every time a Gulf city shifts another percentage of its desalination to clean energy, every time an Indian village revives a tank, every time a government links water tariffs, reuse, and climate policy, we move one step away from water wars and one step closer to the water wisdom. My invitation to you to close this episode is very simple. Look at every glass of water, every meal, every product you consume, and ask, whose water is this and what cost are we paying for this? Then commit to one action in your home, your workplace, your farm, your city, your policy making space that moves you closer to the Sustainable Development Goals 16 and 13. Because in the end, the real difference between the thirsty, conflict prone world and a wise, water secure one is not just rainfall or rivers, it's us, our choices, our courage, our willingness to act beyond the last drop. As I always say, sustainability is not mine, it's ours. So let's take a responsibility to save each drop at a time. If you like today's episode, feel free to follow us in Spotify, iTunes, of course, YouTube, and all the social media platforms like Instagram, LinkedIn. And stay tuned, curious, and inspired only on the sustainability side.
Feel the joy, let's unite.